Don't worry, Baba. I'll be back soon.
Mira, there is some misunderstanding. Please.
That was a scene from Miral, the new film about a young Palestinian girl growing up in an orphanage in East Jerusalem, confronting the everyday challenges of occupation and war. The film is based on the autobiographical novel by award-winning author and journalist Rula Jibrial, who also wrote the screenplay. Joining us now is Rula, along with the film's director, Julian Schnabel. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Julian, we had Harvey Weinstein in a couple weeks ago, and he was raving about this film. In fact, it's all he wanted to talk about. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm glad that Harvey's so enthusiastic. It's important. It's one of those people, when they believe in something and they're brave enough to fight for it, it's very helpful to a filmmaker. Well, when I read Rula's book, which was in 2007, I felt that there was something so familiar about it, and I thought that the concerns of the Palestinian people were much more similar to the concerns of the Israelis than different from theirs. So I think that everybody in that country would like their child to go to school in the morning and come home at the end of the day. And right now, for a myriad of different issues, none of the people that live there have that basic right to know that their children will come home. Particularly, you see what happened yesterday. It goes on, and this violence has to stop. So it's about a girl that grows up in an orphanage which was started in 1948 by Hind Husseini, who basically drew a line around these 55 kids and said they're safe in a war zone. And at its height, there were 3,000 girls in the school. Now, with the wall, very difficult. There's less than 100 girls in the school, but it's still open. But really, through love and education, Rula was able to circumnavigate the mire of all that, and she picked up the baton and handed it over to me, and I tried to stay true to her story.
The circumnavigation that he was just talking about, I mean, your life has been literally an emotional minefield, walking through it, beginning with the death of your mother. Tell us about that going forward. The strength, the human resiliency.
First of all, I'm really proud that the Jewish man told my story. I never thought that this would happen. I thought that we're not heard as Palestinians. We're not heard as women that live under... Because it's not interesting to talk about women living in a war zone. It's more interesting to talk about bombs, about killing, about attacks, war. As a journalist, I learned one thing, that in order to free yourself, and traveling in the Middle East, all around, in Egypt, Tunisia, in Lebanon, I felt that through education you can really not only save yourself, have the tools to empower yourself and address all issues. My mother didn't have these tools. She wasn't an educated woman. She was raped by her stepfather, and she committed suicide. One of the attacks that we received lately, a guy called my mother a prostitute only here in New York, just in an attempt to undermine the story, and not only politically, just not to listen to that side of the story, try to shy away from it, or even not only question it, not consider us as humans, try always to push people away from hearing the other side of the story. How can we ever have peace in the Middle East one day if you don't hear both sides of the stories, and if you don't really embrace those sides and put them together?
How do you deal with what has to be, for lack of a better phrase, the resentment factor? I mean, a forgotten people, largely ignored by the world around
That's one of the things that really pushed me to writing. When I was 5, I arrived to the orphanage. At the age of 5, my sister was 4. She was crying the whole time. She wanted to go home. In that moment, I became her mother, and I started telling her stories. My way to survive what happened to me as a tragedy, abandonment, my mother killing herself, was to read more. By reading more, open my mind and make me become a critical thinker. Wherever I go in the Middle East as a journalist, I always covered stories that were not told by the media, because I wanted these people to have a little bit of justice by telling their stories and bring their story to the to mainstream audience, to the big screen or to the small screen, you not only give them justice, you bring awareness, and in that way they feel that they have to do something about it themselves. Look what happened in the whole Middle East, Egypt, Tunisia, even Libya in some kind of way. You have people for the first time saying, you know what, we don't want this anymore. We want democracy, we want freedom, and we want this in a non-violent democratic way. If you don't hear these people, nothing will change. In my country, we are all losers today, all losers, because there's less education and unfortunately less stability and security. Only by building a bridge, through this movie you build a bridge. You start not only creating awareness, bring a simple story to the people where it can open their hearts and minds.